Welcome to our Interoperability Showcase. This is complete care orchestration for individuals with special needs. I'm Jimmy Pong. I'm the solutions lead for Dedalus Group North America, and this is Saurabh. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Saurabh Gupta, Chief Engineer here at RX.Health.
Awesome. So what we're going to show you today, our use case is actually based on a real project that we have deployed. So we're really excited to show you this because this is out there right now with an organization that we're really proud of. Quickly about Dedalus, which is how you pronounce it, by the way. And an easy way to remember it is that we set your data loose, which is apropos for this interoperability showcase. We are one of the largest healthcare software companies in the world. If you count by revenue or lives served or impacted lives, headcount, we are in over 40 plus countries across 6,300 hospital sites, and we served about 540 million lives. In fact, we have deployed an interoperability fabric that gathers healthcare data from all over for whole countries. We have about 2,500 people in R&D that is solely focused on innovating solutions that support the continuum of care. At Dataloot, we like to talk about that we do healthcare at planet scale, but we do that with the aim of personalizing care and care experiences for everyone, everywhere, which is a great segue to our use case and for me to introduce Joey. So Joey is an awesome kid. He is 12 years old. He lives at home with his mom in a single parent household. They just moved from out of state, and mom is not a US citizen, so clearly she's very concerned about her legal status and her rights. Joey was diagnosed with ASD and ADHD at 5 years old and is currently taking Vyvanse. At 7, he was diagnosed with asthma, and he is currently undergoing biweekly nebulizer treatments. Joey hasn't seen a dentist in about 2 years, so he has oral pain, oral discomfort, and his mom doesn't have health insurance. So she's struggling and finding it challenging to afford Joey's medication and care. Unfortunately, Joey is struggling in school, and his mom is struggling to manage all of his appointments, all of his care records, and all of his care options that come from various healthcare professionals. Joey's actually one of 55,000 people, about 15% of the total population in the 7 surrounding counties where he lives, that has special needs. And like Joey and his mom, they are looking for some support and help. So I'm going to show you a quick video about Joey and some of the challenges that he and people like Joey face on a daily basis.
Individuals with special needs face many issues with regard to the conditions they live with daily. Some of the issues they deal with are finding out what services they need, telling their story over and over again to all their providers, fragmented services spread throughout the city, access to transportation, not having full knowledge of their diagnosis or conditions, feeling a lack of support, and not feeling welcome. As a result of these factors, individuals with special needs and their caregivers become overwhelmed by the complexities facing them and sometimes fall through the cracks. Many eventually give up. When this happens, instead of improving their health and quality of life, they regress or remain in limbo.
So this is Joey's wheel of challenges. And, we see these revolving wheel of challenges as a barrier that stops Joey and his mom from receiving the personalized care that he needs and he's looking for a quality of life that he deserves. At Dedalus and RX.Health, what we aim to do is to break that wheel. And we do that by deploying an interoperability fabric for organizations that serve Joey to gather data from all over, from EHRs, from IoT devices, from any data source that exists within or outside the organization that serves Joey. That means behavioral health data, dental health data, and preferential data. If we want to provide Joey whole person care orchestration, we need to show him that we know him. And like any of us here, we want to trust the person that's trying to help us. This is what we call at Dedalus interoperability with a purpose. And we do that by enabling digital transformations for organizations like the Multi-Assistance Center, or the MAC for short. It is a one-stop shop that offers comprehensive care services for medical and non-medical services that for people with special needs in their family. So what that means is at the MAC, Joey's going to get coordinated services with, led by a care navigator through a family-centered approach with a community of network of partners. So if Joey's struggling in school, the MAC is going to work with Joey's teacher to provide some teaching assistance so he can be engaged in the classroom. If Joey's mom is concerned about her legal status, the MAC can work with an immigration attorney to help Joey's mom figure all of that out. At the MAC, Joey's going to be assigned a care navigator to be his guide and his partner, and to develop a care plan that is personalized just for him, utilizing all the data that we have ingested and stored for the MAC. He's going to receive on-site services for the most part, and most importantly, Joey's going to develop a sense of belonging and well-being within the community. All of this is underpinned using our flagship product here in North America called Digital Connect for Health, or DC4H for shorthand. So I'm going to talk quickly about what it is. A lot of you guys know what a system of record is. Typically, it is a centralized data store. In this case, in healthcare, we talk about EHRs. And there's a system of engagement, which typically provides data and insights for clinicians and families and for the consumer of healthcare themselves. Rx.Health is a wonderful platform that is a system of engagement. Where DC4H slots in is right in the middle. Right? We are a system of insight that allows customers to collaborate across systems, from the system of record to the system of engagement. And we take all that data and we create value from it so we can empower the patient, the consumer of healthcare, and to empower the clinician. We don't like to call them patients, they are consumers of healthcare. I like to describe DC4H as an agnostic, full-stack interoperability informations and insights platform. And there's 4 things about it that I think are really powerful that helps organizations like the MAC. One, it allows the MAC to be hyper open. So all that data that flows in, it allows the MAC to take all that in and create some open processes and allow them to open up their analytics for consumption. It allows also the MAC to minimize vendor lock-in and maximize agility and security. 2, the DC4H is modular, and as you'll see in the next slide, there's 6 pillars, and we don't believe that an organization needs to do a rip and replace. The platform is able to evolve with an IT architecture for an organization as the business needs change. 3, DC4H is a no-code, low-code environment. It's very visual, it's a great graphic user interface for people who aren't tech geniuses to create integration channels and integration pipelines to bring all that data in. And lastly, but one of the most important aspects of Digital Connect for Health is the fact that it is a longitudinal integrated care record and that lives inside the platform. So we were talking about whole person care orchestration. This provides a 360-degree view for consumers of healthcare like Joey. So I'm going to pass it along to my colleague Sharon Jones to talk about the 6 pillars of value.
The first pillar is integration services. This is where we have products that bring together all the data from the disparate systems. So we connect to EMRs, departmental systems, and potentially diagnostic systems to bring that data together, transforming the format where we need to. Our next pillar is then ingest. The ingestion services are where we are holding all of this information in a single file repository. That repository holds the data of a patient and provides the ability for us to have an integrated care record where all of the information about a patient is held in a single place. Because this is a FHIR server, it also allows us to use FHIR APIs to be able to access that information, whether it be for internal apps or for potentially customer or partner facing opportunities. Once we have all the data in a single place, we can then use our clinical index services. The clinical index services provide tagging onto the data so that semantically it can be understood in hierarchies. This allows some very interesting insights to be performed later on, where all of that data under a common subject can be viewed together. These first 3 pillars we described as the first mile. That means that we're obtaining all of the data and adding some value into the repository such that the data can then be used to add value to the healthcare business. Once the data has been brought together, We can then use connectivity to artificial intelligence partners and other tools that provide rules or maybe interpretations that are fed back into the repository and will actually help us understand the data further by providing the insights that aren't necessarily there from a human perspective. The workbench capabilities in this space also allow from some level of analysis that provide insights into populations of data or cohorts of data that may be obscured in the current environments as they are still siloed in applications within an organization. We then enter into what we term the last mile of the platform. This is where we are actually using the information that has been gathered and enriched. The informed services provide the capability to view the data and understand what that means in a business perspective. I frequently describe informed services as the passive interaction for the information that we have gathered. The final pillar, which is intervene, is where we take the learnings and insights that have been gathered and apply the capability to perform an intervention based on that, ideally through a rules engine or through some initiative that provides an alert or a task out to users to take action based on the understanding of the content of data. This can also provide a feedback loop back into the beginning of the process, as that information will be pushed into systems of record where the users need to interact on those particular interfaces.
Thank you, Sharon. Appreciate that. So I want to show you our architecture that underlies these 6 pillars. I want to quickly talk about all these components that allow the Mac to automatically take in all of this data. Truly, it's not automatic, we're magic here. We have something called an EMPI that comes with DC4H. For those of you who do not know what that is, it stands for Enterprise Master Patient Index. So when we take in data from all the various sources about Joey, he has a unique ID from each source. As we ingest that and build out his integrated care record, we want to assign an enterprise ID that's unique to him in DC4H. So as data continues to flow in, we have a probabilistic match that knows that this is for Joey, and it adds up into his integrated care record. In our foundation piece, we also offer a terminology service that takes in BOINC codes, ICD codes, SNOMED codes, and translate that to the appropriate application. We have an auditing service, authentication of provider index, a policy consent management module, and notifications and alerts. Over here in this screen, we have something called Inform and Intervene, and Sharon just talked about that. Patient Synoptic is a wonderful dashboard that providers can utilize to have that sort of passive interaction with data, which I'll show you in a second. I want to talk quickly about the Insights Workbench, which is an awesome module that allows workflows to be configured. So at the point of intervention, at the point of care. So for example, if a data point comes in about Joey that's abnormal, a care navigator can be alerted through a notification or an alert, and the care navigator can reach out to call Joey or Joey's mom in to be seen by a provider. So this is the actual logical architecture that's been deployed at the Mac. As you can see right in the middle here is DC4H, and we're acting as that interoperability fabric to all these systems of records, from the community, from the provider, and from QHIMSS when QHIMSS are stood up. If you don't know what a QHIMSS is, it's a qualified health information network. And it's something that's possible, that's going to be the future here of interoperability. When TEPCA, a regulatory framework, was the final release was back in January. So we're really excited about that. We also connect with digital assets like from RX.Health systems of engagement. Earlier, I talked about whole person care. When we work with the QHIMSS in the future, since Joey's from out of state, we can send a request and get a response back from the QHIMSS to complete Joey's integrated care record. We're going to work with community network systems of records and his provider to take in that behavioral health data and that dental health data. And we're going to sit down with Joey to talk to him to gain all his preferential data. I'm going to toss it over to Sarah to talk about RX.Health.
Thanks, Jimmy. So as Jimmy mentioned, all the data that flows into the DC4H service fabric also flows in through RXL Platform using the same standards such as HL7, Fire, and what have you. And the RXL Platform provides individual apps for different users. For example, the member app, the navigator app, and the provider app. And they provide individual functions for each user. Over to you, Jimmy.
Thank you. And I'd be remiss to say, we work with Rx.Health and we work with third-party chat applications and app dev platforms to integrate and send data back and forth using Fire standards and HL7. So this is the typical day that Joey would go through at the Mac. Like most of you guys, he's going to, with your experience with the provider, he's going to start off using a website or an app to answer some pre-screening questions. So we're talking about demographic data, contact information, medical history, family history. All that data is going to be passed along as a FHIR resource into DC4H. The Care Navigator is going to review that data, and if it's deemed eligible, which in this case Joey is, the Care Navigator is going to send a notification to Joey or Joey's mom. An appointment can be scheduled, triggered from either the Care Navigator or Joey, and a FHIR resource is going to be sent to DC4H where a master calendar is going to be updated. When the day comes for Joey to meet with his Care Navigator, he's going to come in, he's going to sit down and do an intake questionnaire. This is where the preferential data comes in. We want to know Joey. So his likes, his dislikes, where he feels secure, where he feels safe. And the Care Navigator can work with a QN in the future or an HIE now to do that request and response, to pull in any additional information that we can find on Joey. All of that gets fed as a FHIR resource back to DC4H, and a Care Navigator is assigned. And the Care Navigator is going to work with Joey to complete a care plan. If needed, which in this case it is, a referral is going to be sent out via an HL7 message to a specialist. Now, if the specialist is not FHIR compliant, he will take in an HL7 message and he's going to send out an SIU for an appointment. That appointment gets fed back to DC4H, Joey's care plan is updated, and now the provider has the ability to view some patient data via a dashboard, gain access to Joey's care plan and Joey's care record. So here's an example of an actual dashboard that a provider sees. As you can see, it's widget-based, it's very dynamic. If there is not relevant information, you can exit out. You can turn a table chart into a line chart, add a range, so if you see a data point that is abnormal, either above or below, we can take a look at that. Here, we can also change this chart into a line chart and enable zoom and look at it as a timeline. We can zoom right in at an individual point in time, at an individual data point to look at that specific measurement. So, when Joey's ready to meet with the specialist, he's going to check in at a self-service kiosk, and a FHIR resource is going to be passed over to DC4H to alert the Care Navigator and the first provider he's going to see. When he is done meeting with this provider, the Care Navigator and the next provider is going to be notified. Any new information that's entered into the provider's SOR, a CCDA can pass through over to DC4H, and the integrated care record is going to be updated. However, we all know that care doesn't stop between the walls of an ambulatory or an acute care setting. It goes with you everywhere. It goes with you at home. So I'm going to toss it over to Sarah to talk about Rx.Health and the ability for Joey and his mom to access information on the go.
Thank you, Jimmy. So let's see all this in action. Let's press play. Okay, so RxL is one of the very few fully automated platforms with over 250 digital care pathways with remote monitoring services and boasts enterprise-wide capabilities. And let's see what happens behind the scenes as soon as Joey or their caregiver enters their information into the platform and Joey starts to receive his care. So this basically simulates a basic patient workflow, Joey's workflow, wherein all the basic information about Joey is entered into a pre-screening form. And since since one of the underlying conditions of Joey is asthma, so the system assigns an asthma care pathway to Joey to start off with. The first step in that pathway is Joey receiving a text message with a link to a survey called the Asthma Control Test, or ACT for short, and that's a standard test across the industry which is used to find out, or at least gauge from a clinical standpoint, whether a person's asthma is controlled versus uncontrolled. Now here you can see Joey simply answers a few questions, 4 or 5 questions, and immediately the system responds with Joey's ACT score. And in this case, Joey's asthma is uncontrolled, and we also see a longitudinal information about Joey's previous scores. Now, since Joey's asthma is uncontrolled, the system decides it's a good time to meet for Joey with this provider, and hence creates an appointment for Joey, which is basically an SMS, and Joey just clicks on a link and joins the telehealth visit. Now, the last step in Joey's care journey is the data feedback and the clinical care, which Joey receives behind the scenes after he has taken all the surveys, all the questions. So the platform also gives the ability to provide a longitudinal view of Joey's profile, their vitals, and all the data that we have collected. And the best part is all that data is fed back into Joey's medical records. As Jimmy mentioned, all the data is collected at a central repository and with the DC4H service fabric. Back to you, Jimmy.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome. So I'd be remiss to mention one last thing. I think it's really cool that what we're doing with the MAC. The MAC's partnered within their community of partner networks with the local university to provide some advanced analytics. So what we can do is pass along Joey's updated care record over to the university databases, and the university is going to engage our data scientists to dive in at Joey's data, look through Joey's data, and to analyze for outcomes. We want to continue to promote the efficiency of care, and this creates a feedback loop that goes back to DC4H, gets fed to the university, that continues personalized care for Joey and his family. So I'm going to close this out by just talking about Joey again. You know, he's a 12-year-old kid with special needs. We want him to be able to enjoy playing sports, going to birthday parties, focusing on school like any 12-year-old does. And we at Dedalus and RXL are so proud to work with the MAC on trying to create a solution to serve individuals with special needs. We want Joey, if he comes and he asks us, you know, show me that you know me, we want to be able to show that we do. And we're so proud of the work that we're doing. So thank you for joining us, and to learn more about DC4H and Dedalus and RX.Health, please visit our website. Thanks.
Thank you.